Today we're going to discuss some eBay economics. Today we're going to talk about barriers to entry in the market, if being in the market is actually feasible for you, or are you going to lose money selling what you're offering. So basically, when you get into the market on eBay and you have something for sale, you have pretty much two options that you have when you're selling something. You have either an item that you have only one of and you're trying to list this one item, whether you're trying to flip it for cash or you're trying to flip an investment that you have. And the other option is going to be having a multiple item listing where you have multiple items or like a wholesale purchase of a bunch of the same items. Now both these two avenues are going to yield different results and different profit margins, and it also depends on the market price that's currently on eBay right now. So let's start with the first one, which is going to be your one-off item, the one item that you have. My best advice for getting the maximum value for any type of one item that you have, or pretty much any item that you're looking to sell on eBay, is to really understand what you're selling. Learn about the item that you have. Learn about what the value of it actually is. See what other people in the market right now value what they have. If obviously it's the same thing that you have, see what they value their item at. If you're trying to get a specific vinyl record sold and you know that you might be able to get a decent amount of money for it, see what other people are selling that record for, and see if it's feasible for you to sell that record right now if you're trying to get a specific expected profit from the sale. Same thing goes with a multiple item listing. Obviously, you don't want to be stuck with a bunch of widgets that don't sell because you can't compete with other sellers for that product. So specifically when you're selling a fixed item listing and multiple items, and in regards to having let's say a box of widgets that you're selling, and somebody else has the same items. Maybe there is more than one firm that's selling these items. Maybe there's 10 people that are all kind of bunched up in a specific price region, I should say, for that specific product. And it might just be a little bit below what you were looking at making. It might even cut into your fixed costs of the acquisition of those items, and then all your fees and your shipping. So at that point, I would say hold off on that item and wait for some competitors to exit the market. What that's going to do is it's going to allow the market to readjust its prices, and it's going to be dictated off the current sellers that are in the market. A lot of times when you have influx on certain products in the market, if it's a relevant product, it really drives down the price because you have a bunch of people trying to flip the same product or the same item, and what it's really doing is they're all competing on who's going to have the lowest price so that they can get theirs sold. Now, obviously, as you have a product at a low price that might be lower than normal, they're going to get scooped up faster from buyers because it's a good deal for these people because they expect to pay more for something and they're seeing it for less. So there also is that's going to exit those people out of the market because people are just going to buy those items and actually remove them from the market for you. So there is that. You hold off for that. And also some of the sellers that are selling the products, they might realize that, hey, I'm cutting myself out of my profit. I'm not making any money. I'm actually losing money to sell this. It's actually costing me money to sell this. And then you might actually see some adjustments in the market price. It might take up to a year. The longest I've seen something that I was looking to sell to where it went from the loss range into the range where I'm at least making a profit on something, the longest was about a year, is what I've noticed, for something that's relevant and that you're able to flip. Because usually over the course of a year, a lot of people drop in and out, especially people that you might say that have like a whole case of something that they're trying to sell. Usually over the course of the year, they can usually unload that case. And odds are most of the people aren't going to restock unless they deal in this specific product on a regular basis. Most of those competitors that you're looking to get out of the market will drop off as soon as they sell out. Sometimes people are just poking around and they're just looking to see what would sell and what won't sell, and they might just pick up a case of something or pick up something that they want to flip, and they might just want to be testing the waters out. So you got to also look at that. You got to look at the way the pricing, the people who are selling the competitive items that are competing against what you want to sell, you got to see what that price clustering is, because there's going to be clusters of sellers that specifically are going to be selling the same thing that you're selling And you'll be able to see how the sellers are clustering their prices to see what the actual value is. You'll see a couple outliers where there'll be a couple people that are maybe below the main cluster of people that are selling the same thing. Like if you have about 15 sellers that are selling an item for, let's say, $4.99, you might have a couple sellers that try to undercut that, at $4.74 or $4.63 or even $4.98. Even I've seen people even cut it by pennies. And then you'll also see a few firms that are selling above that price as well. Now, either way, they're going to dictate what they're selling their product at based off how much their cost of acquisition is, their shipping, and all the fees, and everything is going to be rolled into what they decide their end sell price is. And it's also going to include how much profit they're looking to gain from the transaction of the sale. So some people might just have a firm hold and they can't afford to sell it lower than this price. And they just want their item to sit on eBay, and it'll just sit there until those other competitors drop off the market. Then your product will be moved up to the lowest price. Then you'll see it start to sell. You could leave it online. Again, it does cost money to have your item sit online and not be sold, because every month if you do a 30-day listing, you're going to have to relist the item. Depending on what kind of store you have, if you even have an eBay store, those fees add up. And if you have multiple items that are like this, that are literally bringing you no revenue at all, those things are going to eventually be costing you money. And you need to factor in any relisting fees into your pricing model. Again, every time you relist an item, that's more fees that are adding up onto the item, which means you might have to increase the price a little bit. So these are all things that you need to take into account when you list an item. I wouldn't recommend leaving something up for a year and hoping that it would sell just because you can't afford to sell it at the price that's competitive right now. I would advise to keep it on the shelf, because it's not losing you any money by it sitting on the shelf. Even though you have an investment in it, you just have to be patient for the proper time to return that investment into your pocket, into profit, versus trying to be quick and sell it now and actually achieve a loss. So that would be my advice in regards to selling items and competing in the market in regards to either having a one-off or a multiple item listing. Either way, it's going to be the same process. You're going to need to do your market research. You're going to need to see exactly what other people are selling it as. You could see how much people are charging for shipping for the specific item. You could even get a ballpark on how much your fees are going to cost entirely. Because if you have an idea of how much the market price is on the item you're trying to sell, and you know that the item weighs 6 ounces, you can clearly dictate how much the fees are going to be. Because if the item, let's say, sells for $9.99 and you know it's going to cost you $2.60 to ship, so you got a $10 item and $2.60 of that's going to be shipping. 14% of the total sales price is going to be a combination of eBay and PayPal fees, so you got $1.40 you're slapping onto that. So now you're sitting at a $4 fixed cost on that item, along with any shipping materials that you're going to use to ship the item. Your time for shipping and handling obviously needs to be added on to that $4 fixed cost price. But I'm just trying to give you a base model on everything before you add your fluff costs or your handling costs. And that'll give you a realistic idea of how much profit you can seek to make on the specific item you're selling. You compare that to what the market price is, and then that'll give you a realistic structure on your fees. If you can backtrack and you could do the market research, I think you could be a very successful eBay seller as long as you're paying attention to the market. To all of our listeners and those of you who found this content interesting and want more, then hit the subscribe button and like this video. Thanks for tuning into the show.